Hello, everyone. Hello, DC. Good afternoon. How are y'all feeling in the room? Good. Woo! Glad to hear it. We also want to welcome the folks that are joining us on our live stream right now. This is being live streamed at the Google Small Business YouTube channel at Google Small Biz. And in a couple of days, the recording is going to be available. So if you want to follow up on and catch up on some of the things that you learned about today and get a review, then you can watch that on the recording. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I also want to give a special shout out to all of our partners who across the country are hosting viewing parties. So lots of other small business owners watching alongside those of you in this room. So shout out to that. If you have any questions that you want answered, we want both the folks in the room to be able to ask questions at the end, as well as anyone watching at home. So you can ask those questions on Twitter via the @GoogleSmallBiz YouTube Twitter account. So go ahead and @GoogleSmallBiz if you have any questions. And if you're liking what you're hearing, please show us some love on social, on Twitter, on Instagram, #GrowWithGoogle. #BHM, and #Google Digital Coaches. So y'all ready to get started? Yes. Okay, good. Well, first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Angelina Darasaw, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called C-Suite Coach. I've been partnering with Google since 2017, and it has been an amazing experience to work with small business owners like yourselves and help see our businesses grow and scale. So really glad to be doing this work, glad to be a part of the Google Digital Coaches program, and it just means a lot to me to be in rooms like this, to see the organic networking that's happened. We can support our businesses and help our businesses grow. So let's continue to have more of that. So again, show us love on social. All right, so today we are going to talk about the importance of having a search-friendly website. And for so many of your businesses, you're looking to have more of your customers engage with you online. And that's especially the case when we think about how many customers are coming online to shop. We're seeing 79% of US customers shopping online, up from 22% in 2000. It's really important to know that you need a website to stand out and make sure you have products, services readily available for your customers to know about. One of the first questions a customer might ask you is, what's your website? How can I vet you? How can I know that the products and services that you have are credible, can be trusted? They want to see your online presence, and they want to shop with you there. So when we think about what does it mean to have a good website, there are a couple different elements that are critical. We think about some of the things that are considered to be the skin of the website. So a skin is the look and feel. And this is one of the things that I see most business owners put a lot of attention on. They want to know, what do the colors look like? Do I like this color scheme? Does it represent my brand and personality? A lot of emphasis on the graphics and the layout and functionality. And all of those pieces are definitely critical, but they're not the only pieces we should be thinking about. We definitely need to pay a lot of attention to the look and feel, but there are other elements that have a great impact on the user experience when we think about quality web design. So, what are those other pieces? It's important to think about the function of your website. Does your website actually provide value back to your bottom line? I always say for business owners that your online strategy should really reflect what your offline goals are. So your website should be providing value back to your business at the end of the day. Is your website organized? Can I navigate it easily? Can I find what I'm looking for? Can I see the things that you've promised me in whatever communication you've given to me that I would find there? Is it useful? If you have a new product or service, and many of you today shared some really unique product ideas, then can I find how to engage with your product? Can I learn about why this is meaningful or how it's going to offer value back to my life as a customer? Really critical. Does it offer function? Is it really easy to use on different devices? Do I know where to search for things? And then also, is it search friendly? Because at the end of the day, the customers that know you exist. But for your business to grow, You really want to have new customers finding out about your business and coming to your site. So you need a strategy to make sure you're showing up in search. So when we talk about what is a goal-oriented website, how many of you think you know, show of hands, a goal for your website right now? Okay, it's light in the room. I wonder what it's like on the live stream. Knowing a goal for your website is critical. It's not just your virtual business card. Again, you're going to spend time. You're going to spend resources. You might outsource, invest in a company to build that website, or you might be doing it yourself. And if you don't know how this is going to add value back to your business, it's hard to really measure why you're putting in the time to build it anyway. So let's go through a couple of different goals your website could have. It can definitely help you build your brand. It can help you drive more leads. If any of you have service-based businesses, some functions that you might think about is what's going to be meaningful to my business at the end of the day. Maybe I want people to book a consultation with me so I can convert those folks into customers. Maybe I want newsletter signups. Maybe it's video views. These are things that are important, particularly for service-based businesses to be thinking about. You can make sales. If you have products, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Drive people to buy right off of your website. It can be an opportunity for you to re-engage customers. There's very few businesses that are going to sustain themselves with a one-time purchase. That's why if you look at cars, they're coming out with a new model every other year, trying to upsell you into something else. Now you need that seat warmer that you didn't need last year. It's critical, right? You have to have it. So you need to be thinking about what are the new offerings that I can offer and tell my customers about on my website to keep them coming back. Am I releasing new content? Do I have a strategy to keep re-engaging those customers so they want to keep doing business with me? If you are looking to scale and grow, this can be what attracts employees to want to work with you. Your team is important for a small business. You can't do it all by yourself, right? So how you show up online tells what your values are to potential hires. This is key. And then it's also support for customers. If I've already engaged, if I've bought your product, if I've engaged with your service, and I need some help with something, you shouldn't just leave your customers out to dry. You really need to be there for them and promote that relationship and have that valuable feedback cycle with your customers. So one of the key questions to ask yourself when you're building your website is, who is my target audience? Who do I want to show up for? I always like to say everything can't be everything for everybody. So another phrase is there's riches in the niches. You have to think really clearly about who you're trying to serve, and does your website match that audience that you're trying to serve? So you could consider the location. If I'm going to serve just a particular area, regional area, can my language reflect some of the language of that location? Or can I talk about things that are going to be topical to that area? Think about the hobbies and interests, and how do you showcase that coming to your website is a part of that user's journey and lifestyle, and you care specifically about that type of user. So it's really important to think about when you're building out this site, and you're thinking about that skin, as well as some of the functionality that's going to be available. Who am I building this out for, and am I serving that particular customer? You don't have to serve everybody on your website. You also want to think about how you would measure success on your website. So there's a couple different things that you can think about. One free tool that I like to use, and I was asking people about this today in coaching sessions, is, are you looking at your Google Analytics? So for those of you who don't know, show of hands, how many have Google Analytics on their sites? Okay, ooh, this is heavy in the room. I like this. Okay, clearly you come to your coaching sessions today. So Google Analytics is a free tool that helps you understand visitor behavior on your website. And one of the things that's really helpful on there are conversion reports. A conversion report will basically help you to understand if people have taken an action that's valuable to your business on your site. And you can define a conversion for your business. So that could be that video view. It could be, am I getting people to fill out the form that I want them to fill out so we can keep engaging with each other? It could be the sales. I might have a sales goal that I'm trying to hit. So you want to have some sort of way to measure your success, and that's one way you can think about it. We In your mind, I want you to just take a second and think about your current website or your future website. And I want you to just think about, if I have this website that I've built for my target audience, what would be some goals that I might have for it, and how will I track and measure? So just 30 seconds in your mind, think about that. Now, for those of you who took the second to envision your website, one thing I hope you did is when you closed your eyes and thought about your website, I hope you saw it on a mobile device, right? Because many of your customers are likely coming from mobile. And so you want to make sure that it's not just optimized for a laptop or a desktop computer, that also people can have a good experience coming to your website on mobile as well. I'm going to urge and continue this exercise outside of here, and keep thinking about the goals that we talked about today, and what your takeaway, your homework assignment is going to be, is to keep thinking about, how do I measure success and make sure that I'm tracking towards those goals. When we talk about a great website, it's also organized. So this is clear. Picture, if any of you have ever been to a website and you can't find how to book the hotel or how to book the thing you need, and it's just chaotic, what are you likely going to do? Leave. You're leaving. You're not spending any time on that website. So if you want people to stay on your website and engage with you and actually complete an action, then it's important that your website is organized. So there's this fancy term that's actually pretty simple to understand. It's called information architecture. Anyone familiar with this term? Okay, some folks in the room. Well, essentially what information architecture is pretty much how you're creating and organizing the information that exists on your website. So for example, if I, for instance, had a sporting apparel store and I wanted to organize all the goods that I had in my store, what are some different ways I could organize my sporting apparel website? By shoes. Somebody said by shoes versus apparel. Okay, what else? Gender. Okay, what else? Sport, size, color, age group, tons of different ways. But the point is, if I just throw all my products on my page, then when people are coming to my website, they're not going to understand what framework I had in mind to build this. So having some sort of framework in place for how you're organizing your information is key. There's not necessarily a right or wrong. You don't have to do one over the other. You pick what works best for you. But I think this is really important to highlight, because sometimes as small businesses, we're starting small. We might just have one or two products. And so we just have the product page where you can shop. But when we're building our website, we have to build with big in mind, and keep in mind we might add on later. There might be different color schemes. There might be different specs that we come out with later. So if it's hard to figure out how we want to organize it at the beginning, when we get big, it's going to be even more confusing for our customers. So we really want to have some sort of framework in place for how we're organizing information on our site, so that our users can easily understand how to interact with us. So some tips for organizing your site. You want to make sure that your labels are very descriptive, that they're short. You know what they say, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them again and tell them over. Make it very easy to understand for your users. And also put yourself in the mind of potential visitors. Where would they be looking for information? You can go through this activity with a business owner friend, or someone else who you've maybe met today, or who's in the room with you right now, wherever you are. And just say, go through my website. If you were looking for X, what's your journey? Follow their journey and see if it makes sense to you. There might be opportunity for tweaks there. And you really want to keep what's most important top of mind, which is really making sure that they can easily navigate your website, that they can find what they're looking for, go back, go forward, get to the home page, whatever they need. You also want to make sure your website is useful. So I heard some really great content strategy ideas today. And when we think about content, you want to think about what is going to help your users better understand how to use your product, how to engage with your service. I think especially for small businesses, people don't know us, right? So when you meet someone and they might make a great first impression, they give you their card, it has their business website on it, that doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically going to make a purchase. As small businesses, we typically have to build trust with our audiences. So what that means is someone might come back 2 and 3 times before they're ready to pull the trigger. So what am I giving them when they come back? Am I creating content that says 7 ways to know that this is the product for you, or something that's going to help them better understand why me over something else, over someone else, over a competitor? How am I offering value that's different and showing that I'm an expert in this space? You want to make sure that your content is recognizable to search engines. So if any of you are using any platforms where you can easily upload a blog into your website, are you adding the keywords to the blog on your website? Are you labeling things correctly? Are you titling your page as well? So you want to make sure that you're taking care of all of those details. And at the end of the day, right now, our customers are becoming more and more demanding, right? They want you to create everything just for them and feel like it's a personalized experience and that you've done things to cater to them. 61% of customers are saying that this is their expectation of brands. I want you to cater to me. I want you to cater to my experience. So what can we do to show that we are catering to their experience? You can think about features like, can I make you recommendations based off what you viewed? Can I make you recommendations based off your purchase history? And I would use that philosophy both on your website and also how you engage in your newsletter strategy and all other kinds of marketing that you're doing with your customers. And what people find is when they've had a relevant brand experience, they're more likely to purchase from that brand in the future. So when we talk about getting those initial conversions, this is important, but it's also important when it comes to sustaining your customers and getting them to do repeat business with you. You do have to really make sure you think about ways to cater to the experience of every customer. Something else that's really critical is thinking about how you can use analytics to create that personalized experience. So some things you may want to ask yourself is, when people are coming to my website, how are they finding me? What are the key sources of traffic? Where are they engaging on my website? Are there certain pages that they come to more often? What is the content that's working on those pages? I'd be asking myself all these questions to understand what's working and what's not working. And your analytics can really help drive some of those answers for you. And when it comes to function, this is one of my favorite pieces that sometimes is overlooked. Functionality really is helping to make it easier for users on your site to take action with you, right? So I think, for instance, if I'm building something, I want to make sure that has value for my customers. I want to make sure that they can easily find what they need, that it goes to the right place. If they want to conduct a search, that I've provided search functionality. If I know that I have many products, for instance, this is going to be really important that they can find everything that they're looking for easily without having to go through too many steps. So for your own businesses, because everyone's business is different, when you're thinking about how to increase functionality, I would be considering, are there any processes that take a lot of steps on my website? And is there anything I could implement that can cut some of that process down? Because what do we not have a lot these days? We don't have a lot of time. So people are always rushing. They don't want to spend so much time having to figure out what to do on your site. So there's a couple different scenarios that you can think of to make it easier. So one is if, for instance, you had a landscape company and customers didn't know how much to order of mulch, for instance, to help them improve their landscaping. You could think about, could I create some sort of calculator where they could put in, based on the square footage of their yard, how much mulch they would need? That's one way you could think about it. Or if I'm trying to be more efficient and I have a salon-based business, I would be thinking about, could I make scheduling really easy on my site? So my customers could book with the stylist or the manicurist that they want to book with. And I've now made my business run more smoothly because I don't have to have someone by the phone. And I've also shown that I have a value for the time of my actual customers, right? I've made their process easier. So go through this process with your own website and see, are there certain things that are coming up for my customers over and over again? And can I cut any of these process steps to make it more efficient and a smoother experience for my customer? You also want to make sure that your website is intuitive. So much traffic, over 50% right now, is coming from mobile and smartphones. So you need to make sure that, especially on a mobile experience, it's not disruptive. So when we're editing our sites, when we're editing anything we do, our newsletters, whatever, you want to make sure that you're not just looking at how it appears on desktop, but you're also taking the time to see what that experience is like for customers on mobile, and that there's no holes in the process. Because sometimes if we haven't looked at the mobile experience, a function that might work on desktop gets lost on mobile, and you want to eliminate that. So a couple tips to think about is, one, you want to think about you want to highlight anything that someone is selecting so that they know what they're hovering over. So if you have a shopping experience, for instance, or if there's something that you want folks to fill out, you want to make sure that those areas can easily be seen by customers. When you're designing your site, you have to have plenty of space so people can tap. There's nothing more frustrating for a customer than I'm coming to your website and I think I'm clicking to order this, and all of a sudden I've clicked on this thing and now I have to start the process all over again. You don't want to frustrate your customers. You want to engage them. And any call to action that you have, you want to make sure that it can be easily clicked on and that it's obvious that that's something that's clickable for your customers. So, for instance, you're not going to have a photo be the clickable call to action. You want to use a word or a button to make that very easy for your customers. When it comes to shopping, if I put something in my cart, and now I have to go all the way back to the home page or find where the shop button is, guess what I'm probably not going to do? Buy more, because I'm exhausted. You've already made my fingers tired, right? So you need to make that process easier so that one of the things I love is one of those features where after I've clicked to purchase something, then I've added it to the cart, it says continue shopping. Or here are some other products that you might like if you've put this in your cart. Those are the kinds of things that are going to make your users want to keep engaging with you. And then when it comes to checkout, if you've caught a theme, we have a distracted audience right now that is busy, they're pressed for time, they don't like a lot of steps. So please don't give them a lot of steps. Reduce the checkout time as much as possible. You want to show, if you have a lot of things to fill out, then show them their progress. One of the things that helps me decide if I'm going to complete a survey or not complete a survey is if it's like page 1 of 29, then I'm like, I am not doing this. If it's 1 of 2, okay, I can get with that, right? So tell them how long the process is going to be. I always think about using devices for the function they're intended for. So for instance, if I can double click and my Google Wallet is activated and I'm buying from mobile, it is like the best experience ever. So you want to make sure that if there are opportunities for digital wallets, you've enabled that into your mobile experience for your customers as well. And then when it comes to search, how many of y'all want to show up online? Okay, good. I was worried for a second. Not all the hands went up. You should want to show up online because that's how you're going to get more customers. So you want to make sure you have a strategy for showing up on search. And when you think about that, it's important to just kind of put yourself into the mind of how Google works, and this helps you think about your strategy. So basically, anybody know how Google works? No? Okay, I'm going to tell you. This is exciting. So I would think about Google as a very giant library that has so many resources. It's just an abundance. And what makes a library useful is that someone has taken the time to go through all of the books and materials and curate them for you. They've organized it in some fashion so that when you go to the library and you show up and you say, I want this, then someone knows exactly where to find it. And that's what makes a library useful. And that's essentially what Google is doing. They have web crawlers that crawl the web and they make sense of all the information that's out there. They organize it, so when you put something into that search box, it's called a search query, results come up in seconds, and it's amazing, and it finds exactly what it is you're looking for. And those results are ordered in rank by relevance, right? So your goal should be to be the most relevant in your category. And in order to do that, you have to have a strategy and some thoughts for showing up on search. So when we think about search results, let's think about what the search page looks like. We've all seen it, but as business owners, we need to put some extra thinking here. What we put in the box is called the search query. That's what your potential customer is, when they're saying, I want to do business with you, they're putting in whatever their need is. They may not know about your business yet, but they may know that they need something to protect their hair when it's wet outside or when it's humid outside and keeps their hair perfect. So they might put in hair protector. And your job is to make sure that you have a strategy that you're showing up for the things that your customers need, not just the name of your business. There's two types of search results to pay attention to. There's an ad. So anything that's labeled as ad is a paid search result. And that's one thing that I think is definitely underutilized by small businesses, is this helps you to show up at the top of search results. No matter where you're ranking in organic, if you run an ad on the right keywords. And organic search results is anything that's unpaid. So you've done a good job of working on your strategy, on your search strategy, and you're showing up in a certain place based off of the work that you've done. The other thing to call out, because we have some brick and mortar businesses here, is business listings, and that essentially is how you show up on maps, and it drives more people to your storefront, to your brick and mortar location, and to do business with you. So now that you know how search works, everyone has to do the simple exercise of thinking, not just let me Google my business name, because if you Google your business name, you may come up pretty high, right? But instead think about, what is the pain point of my customer? And how do I make sure that I consider what they're looking for when they come to search, and I have a strategy for showing up for that, because that's ultimately what's going to move the needle for your business. So when Google's trying to understand your site and see if your site is relevant, if it's credible for folks searching, they're looking at a couple of things. Did your website take really long to load? If you have a very long load time, your website is going to appear as less credible. Is the content useful? Is it original? Are there text links so that the crawlers crawling through to organize everything can understand what's happening on your website? Do you have page titles, descriptions? Did you put a framework into how you've organized information? Does it show up across different browsers and devices? So this is why it's important to do that work and really understand, how is my website showing up across different platforms and devices, browsers and devices. So we have covered a lot of information today. I can't even believe we're almost at the tail end of the workshop part. So get your questions ready. And those of you on the live stream, if you have questions, at Google Small Biz, at Google Small Biz on Twitter. But we've covered a lot. So a couple things I just want you to keep in mind. This is your homework. When you get out of this workshop, I want you to be thinking of, what do I do with everything I've learned? And it starts with, many of you said, when I asked how many of you have a goal for a website, you said, I don't know why I have my, because you need one. I know it's important. Well, now think about, what is that goal that drives back to your business's bottom line? How might I need to tweak my website or restructure it to make sure I'm driving users to complete an action that's going to be meaningful to me? Is my design intuitive? Can people find what they're searching for? Also, have I planned out useful content that's going to engage customers to want to come back to my site, that's going to help them understand, particularly if I have a new product or a product in a very competitive category? Why me? Why am I the expert here over someone else? Or why is this product going to add something to your life? Is it functional? on all different platforms? Have I thought about how to make my user's journey as simple as possible, or create tools that help improve their experience? And then also, do I have a strategy for search? So those are some key things I want you to be thinking about. And a reminder that if you want more of this kind of great content, you should check out google.com/grow. And if you want more of the Digital Coaches Program, check out grow.google/digital coaches. So we have some time for some questions. Thank you all. And so we have some time for some questions. So I can start with one in the room, and then we can do one off of Twitter. Anyone in the room with a question? We have one back here. We will bring you a mic.
You mentioned earlier how it has like the search engine and it has an ad. So as a small business owner, I always get calls from random people saying that, hey, oh, how would you like to be at the top of Google when someone searches you? How legitimate is that?
Yes. Okay. So you have asked my friend the most common question that I ever hear at any digital coaches workshop or when talking to small businesses. Would I recommend, if you have the time yourself to work on your keyword strategy or marketing strategy, go ahead and do it. If you would like to outsource it, I would network and find a referral from someone you know and trust to help you with that process. That would be my best advice. Yes, there are true consultants that are out there and they're cold calling people. That is not Google. Google is not calling you, so keep that in mind. But I would really go based off of a referral, someone whose work that you've seen, and someone that you feel personally you can trust. I also would say I do believe coming to workshops like these and getting yourself more knowledgeable about some of the basics helps you to better vet consultants that you might want to engage for marketing for your business. So as a CEO, you don't have to be the chief everything officer, but you should be a generalist, enough to make good decisions on who you want to hire. Okay, we can take a question from Twitter. And so at SD Coro says, how do I get started designing basic ClickFunnels and mapping customer journeys through my website? So I would say first, really begin by thinking about ultimately what is the end action that I want users to take. I'd create a call to action on my website. I'd be thinking, if I can I get it on the homepage? So right when I've gotten them, I can get them to complete whatever action that's meaningful to me and my business. If I want them to sign up for my newsletter, I would put that form for sign up right there on that homepage. So when you think about your call to action, how do I put it in the best place that's going to get the most engagement? And typically that is your homepage. So thank you, SD Coro, for your question. Okay, we can take another in the room. And we have one in the front and one. Yep.
Where are we going first?
Let's be equitable.
Hi. How
Hello.
would you determine what the pain point is? Would it be a survey or like how would you get enough data or info to know what you're actually addressing, what pain you're addressing?
Yes. Okay, so the question, if anyone didn't hear, is how do you find the pain point of your customer? And in the beginning, as you're exploring your space, I would really look at qualitative feedback. So people who have engaged, maybe I have some early customers. What was it that drove them to want to do business with me? What did I solve for them? I'd ask those questions early. If someone is a potential customer and doesn't buy with me or doesn't engage in my services, I'd ask the same question. What did I not address? What was your true issue that I could have solved more effectively? And that helps you in the early stages, that qualitative piece. When you get further along and you're thinking about your web strategy and you get more data on the back end, then you can use some of that to drive, this is what customers are paying the most attention to on my website. Maybe it's not the thing intuitively that I thought they would have paid attention to. There might be something here I want to explore. That's how I would look at it. Okay, I'm gonna just make sure we don't have any more questions from Twitter. And we can take another question. We have one in the room.
My question is, I've heard that white backgrounds draw in more clients than having a colored or like a moving background. I just wanted to know how true that is, because with me branding, my name is Black Label, so I try to do most things along the color lines of black. So I wanted to know, is that scaring my clients away, or do white backgrounds actually bring in more clients?
So one of the things that you said that I just want to call out is you also mentioned moving backgrounds and animation. And I think this is important to think about because I see a lot of small businesses put very beautifully made animations on their sites. But if it slows down your load time, it's actually working against you versus working for you. So that's one thing I would keep in mind. And then the other piece is I would think about your user segment in particular. So one of the things we talked about earlier in the workshop is you don't have to necessarily serve everyone. So yes, there could be a greater draw with a larger population, but if the population you're seeking to serve responds well to that background, then I would consider if that's driving me the meaningful business that I want. Any other questions? We have time. Oh, now the hands are flying up. Okay, let's go. I'm ready.
You mentioned using keywords. How do you know if you're actually using the correct keywords on your website?
Yeah, so the question is, how do I know if I'm using the correct keywords on my website? This is a very complicated question because there's so many ways to answer this. So one of the things I would think about is going back to the earlier question, what is the pain point of my customer? Any keywords related to that might be what I really want to show up for because that's how I find new customers coming and knowing about my business. A lot of times I will see businesses focus on a strategy of their business name be the keyword that's tagged on every page, and that is good. And that is how many people will show up when they search their Google name. They're like, yeah, I found my business. I'm #1 in the search results for my very specific businessname.com, right? But that's not necessarily bringing you a new audience. So I would look at, again, address what is my customer searching for. You can look, when you do have your Google Analytics, you can look at things like what keywords actually drove people to my site. Am I comfortable with that? Do I want to do a strategy based off of those keywords if it's actually driving meaningful traffic to my site? Another one here. And then we have, there's one right next to you. And then we'll get to the other side.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I have a question that's piggybacking off of the last one. So you had mentioned earlier being careful about how much of our users' time we're asking when we have different processes. But at the same time, we want to learn more about our users. And so what is, I guess, a rule of thumb that maybe you use in your business or that you're familiar with businesses using to strike a balance between gaining more insights and not annoying? And specifically, I would like to maybe have some surveys for my customers, but there are so many other things that I require them to respond to in the process of doing business with me. I don't really want to ask them to do a, survey at the end of everything, so, just how do you strike that balance, getting the information, not annoying them.
Such a great question. I would really be focusing on if there are customers that are showing that they really want to engage with me, maybe I would focus on that audience in the beginning. Something else I would think about just as a business owner is if I'm asking someone for something, can I offer them anything back that's of value to them? So really start to pinpoint, because sometimes someone will say, fill out this whole survey and then be entered into a drawing that you'll never win. And you don't necessarily want that experience. So think more about, can I offer you something meaningful that's going to really show a recognition for your time, help strike that better balance. Yes. Oh, we have to get you the mic.
Thank you. Hello. My question is regarding multilingual analytics for websites that are bilingual or multilingual. My organization, Jami Linguist, we work with people to provide the translation and those things to help with the multilingual SEO, because not everyone is typing English into the Google search. And so when you're looking at the dashboard or you're trying to analyze your traffic, what resources are available to kind of track the analytics on a multilingual basis? I know that obviously if they're going to the page that's, /ES, that there are people going to that page. But other than that, like being able to track just what search terms and where users are coming from, because when you start to do it in more than one language, it can become a lot more complicated.
Okay, so 2 initial thoughts, making sure I'm processing the full question, but one is when you talk about wanting to know where your users come from, you can definitely take a look at the behavior reports that will give you some of the demographic and the regional information that helps you understand where your users come from. And then as I'm getting the signs that we're getting close to time to wrap, the other thing that I would say would be really helpful is checking out some of the online courses on analytics that are available in Skillshop that can do deeper dives into some of these areas as well. So we actually just have time for one more question, and I saw there were many hands up. So I think this gentleman had his hand up for quite a while. Both of them, okay. We do need to get a mic to you.
Okay, thank you. I had 2 questions answer. Number one is when it comes to generating leads, what other way generate leads besides newsletter? That's number one. And number 2, how do I get a website that fits my consulting business?
Okay, great. So when it comes to generating leads, I would think about a deeper understanding of where my audience is living. It doesn't just have to be newsletter, to your point, but if my audience is all living on one platform, or I see that they're viewing a lot of video, I might want to create a strategy for that platform that drives them back to my site. So that's one thing I would definitely be thinking about. Knowing which platforms your customers are on is going to be helpful in you figuring out where are the right places to push them back to my website and get them to do something meaningful. One other point that I would make is that if you are going to try to recruit people or sign up for your newsletter, kind of back to the question around how do I offer something back for my customers to get their insights, you should be thinking that with any action you have them take. So if I'm going to try to get people to sign up for my newsletter, be really clear, tell them what they're signing up for. If you've ever been to a retail site, they might say, sign up here and we'll send you a 10% coupon right away. So make sure that you're showing them either 1, what they'll get for giving you their information, or 2, whatever it is you're going to tell them. If you sign up for my newsletter, this is what you'll see. If you add me on social, this is what you'll see, and be really clear with them about that. We have just one more follow-up question from SD Coro on Twitter. And websites are all starting to look the same due to templates and trends. Is there a downside to this? I will say one of the things to pay attention to is if something works really well, then there could be value to that. So if, for instance, there are functions that are improving the user experience overall, I would consider keeping those functions. And then kind of back to the point about colors and templates that someone asked earlier, if my target audience and the audience I'm really trying to reach is responding to something that is breaking the mold and different, I don't necessarily have to change every piece of my process to fit the other mold. I can really super serve that niche audience that I have. So we have just 1 minute remaining, and I think there was one last question over here. Yes.
For those who do a lot of creative content that post a lot of images and videos, I know that indexing and web crawling often looks for text, but when you have image and video heavy pages, do you have any advice for better positioning yourself when it comes to, just being found based off of your content alone?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would think about, an easy takeaway there is making sure that you are offering image descriptions for all of the images that you upload on your site. So we talked about, I believe I introduced the term CMS, Content Management System. A lot of small businesses will use those. An example of that would be a Wix, a WordPress, whatever. If you're using some sort of content management system, they'll have like a wizard that shows you what to fill out. And a lot of times business owners miss key steps. So I would think about, have I filled out everything? If I am going to do a lot of images, and this works for newsletters as well, can I provide a written description so that Google can easily read what's happening here? And so that is all the time we have. I want to remind you to follow us on social, to engage with us on social, hashtag Grow with Google, hashtag BHM, and hashtag Google Digital Coaches. And if you're joining on the live stream, the good news is we're not leaving you. It's not over. We have something really amazing coming up, and I love to hear and celebrate the stories of real business owners who are doing amazing things, who are really just providing examples that we can take away to improve our journeys and our experiences with our businesses. So we are going to turn it over to a panel of small business success stories, and we have 2 small businesses that are right here from the DC area and a business from Atlanta. So first, I want to introduce Sharika Winter. So Sharika is the co-founder and managing partner of TW Tote, and her background is in mechanical engineering and instructional design from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. She has a long career in hardware, 11 years of experience in the private sector and government-affiliated companies. Her key philosophy when it comes to business is, does this solution solve an underlying problem? And today, Sharika was actually featured on the Google blog for her business and how she's using and engaging with Google. So before I bring her up, I want to show you all a quick video. Ooh. There we go.
It's a privilege to be a Black business in a city that I've grown to love. Being the first generation here from the West Indies, it's important for us to be a part of the historical impact that comes with DC. I'm Sharika Winter.
I'm Shalon Thomas, and we're the founders of TW Tote. I was headed to work in a full suit and tie, and I caught my reflection in the mirror and realized I had a silly paper bag full of lunch in my hand. And that's when the TW Tote was born. One of the issues we had as a business is just understanding what happens next.
We knew there was a market out there, but unfortunately, nobody really knew us.
Attending Grow with Google workshops helped us learn smarter ways to optimize our business as well as be found online.
They drop a lot of nuggets on us, from trends to insights. It really helps us to better understand our customers in the competitive space.
The mission of our program is to level the playing field for Black and Latinx small business owners within local communities. We want to help them grow their business and reach more customers online. Integrating that product into the culture is why people love the brand.
It's really a community where people are supporting each other openly and honestly. You know, that's really important to us because we develop other people around us and push them to be great. And in return, your company ends up being great.
I mean, as a minority woman, it's scary because we're laying the concrete and it's not dry yet. But knowing that this could be the beginning of something for other people, it makes us keep going. We're not gonna stop.
Can we give a shout out to Sharika? Thank you for joining us, Sharika. And next up, I'd like to introduce Marcel Benson, who is the founder of Benson Watch Company. He designs beautiful timepieces to inspire people to spend their time doing the things that they love. I absolutely love that. He built it from an idea, and it's become a notable success. He's been all over the press, Black Enterprise most recently, Essence, Rolling Out, HuffPost, it goes on and on. He's a BE Modern Man by Black Enterprise, a graduate of the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, a high-performing minority business program. And he's come to tell us about the things he's doing, like recent partnerships with MGM Resorts and Macy's. Welcome, Marcel. And I know we're in DC, but we have someone special all the way from Atlanta. So I'm very excited to introduce Tracy Pickett, a passionate entrepreneur, attorney, inventor, and musician. So she is doing it all. She, in 2014, launched her first entrepreneurial venture, Iboticon, an app development and media design company. And in 2016, she left her job there full-time to launch her second entrepreneurial adventure. So that is a seasoned entrepreneur right there, Hairbrella. Now, Hairbrella has been coined the rain hat reinvented. It is a #1 selling rain hat on Amazon, and it helps keep women across the globe feeling polished no matter what the weather looks like outside. As someone with a lot of hair, I need a Hairbrella. So come on through, Tracy Pickett. And so if you are just tuning into the live stream and you didn't hear me introduce myself, my name again is Angelina Darasaw. I'm the founder and CEO of C-Suite Coach. I've been in business for 5 years, and for 3 years have had the amazing opportunity to partner with Google as a part of the Digital Coaches program, where I'm the National Grow with Google Digital Coach. So, yes, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And now I want to ask you, we've heard from each of you, a little bit about each of you from your bios, but tell us the real deal about your business and how it came to be.
Well, hey, everybody, and thanks for having me. So my story really started with me growing up and going to a hair salon and it raining every single time I went, like a curse. And my mom was paying for my hair, so I didn't care that much. But then when I went on to school, law school, I started going across campus, and I'm like, oh, no, this is a real problem because it's my money and my time. So I started wearing a shower cap and then putting a beanie over it. And I'm like, okay, this will help me. But then one day I pulled off the beanie without the shower cap, and I was embarrassed. I said, okay, well, there has to be a solution for this problem because it rains 106 days out of the year. Women are spending tons of money, $80 billion on their hair every year across the world. And so we've got to have a solution to protect us from something that's going to happen. So I started looking for a solution, didn't find it. I kind of saved some money, and Sarah Blakely is like one of my biggest inspirations. And I didn't have, the savings was all I had. And I was like, if I go get this patent, I'm going to spend all of my money. And so I asked God for a sign. I said, God, if you want me to do this, just give me a sign, please. I went to dinner with my family. That was a Friday. I had till Monday to file for the for the patent itself. Already did the provisional. And Sarah Blakely comes in the restaurant at a Hibachi Grill and sits next to me. So.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was the sign that I needed. I have not looked back since that day. She actually, my mom, I didn't want to speak to her because I was so nervous. I didn't have my elevator pitch together. And so my mom made me do it anyway. And she said, I feel really good about this. People pitch me all the time, but I want you to know you should definitely go for it. So I did, and that is where Hairbrella began.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I've been asking for a sign for quite some time. I wanted Jay-Z to partner with me. He hasn't walked into a restaurant yet and sat next to me. He's coming, hopefully. But no, I started my company just sheerly out of my passion for timepieces. While other kids were buying like sneaks and stuff like that, I was collecting watches. I probably amassed about 100 pieces before realizing that I had like an extreme fetish for watchmaking. So, time goes on. I went to Morehouse College where, most of my classmates were going off to work on Wall Street and in consulting, which I ultimately wound up doing. But I knew that it wasn't something that, was what I ultimately wanted to be doing, like, for the rest of my life. It wasn't. I didn't see myself being in an office, setting for the rest of my life. And when I was there, I didn't necessarily feel like there was a space for me. So that's kind of where the slogan got its life. About 2.5 years ago, I decided to just leave. Like I didn't give a 2-week notice. I literally came to work one day, and it's something that I kind of been like thinking about, for quite some time. And I was just like, you know what? I think today is the day that I leave. Well, let me ask this: how many people here took off work to be here today? Okay, see, so we have some people that are in a similar space, and I'm not saying go quit your job tomorrow, because there was definitely a lot that came along with that I didn't anticipate. But in that moment, I felt very powerful. Like I took my tie off. I had a purple tie on, Brooks Brothers, tied it around my head, and just literally. Of course, after I went to HR, but in the elevator, I tied it around my head. Took a photo, posted it on social media, it went viral, and that's where it began. But it was me leaving the company where a majority of my opportunities came. Like the Dartmouth program that she mentioned, I wouldn't have been able to attend had I still been, in the office. So, yep, that's my story.
So I don't have one of those stories. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never saw myself as that type of person. And I like to eat food. If you want to have my time, bring me to a great restaurant. And my business partner, we used to go out to eat nachos, and that's why Busboys was in that video. And over nachos one day, he's like, yo, we should make a business. And I was like, no, we shouldn't. And he started drawing on a napkin, and I'm listening, and in my head, I'm like, all right, I'll just support him. Like, I don't really want to do this, but I'll just support him through this. And at that point, I was in project management for IT, not using my engineering degree that my good parents paid for, that I still don't have a degree. My dad took it as a receipt. I've never touched my actual degree. He said that's his. And so I was like, man, okay, maybe I can put this degree to use in research and development. And that's really where we started. And a lot of it was me following behind my business partner, because I'm like, all right, I'm just going to support him. I'm going to support him. And slowly but surely, he can convince me to make this 50-50. And I was like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, I know, here I am, right? And so being a research and development company has allowed me to explore the parts of engineering that I didn't get to explore in school, right? And mechanical engineering is very strict curriculum. You have to do what you have to do. I wanted to leave the States and go to Italy to do interior car design for Lamborghini. And my mother was like, no, that's not happening. And so now I'm able to really do research and development and tear things apart and reverse engineer things the way I'd like to do it. And as a result, we have our 2 products, and the one that you guys saw, the TW Tote, which is our child. It's about 14 months old. And it's been a blessing since then.
Wow. So I'm hearing sometimes there's a sign that pushes you, sometimes you push yourself, and sometimes there's someone else that pushes you into it. And it all works because we're all here. We all got here. I fall more along the lines of Marcel, where I just had to say, it's time. I'm going to push myself to try this. So whatever it is, give yourself that push or get pushed. And now that we're all here, earlier today we talked a little bit about design thinking and being just a user-centric approach to thinking about how to create a solution that's going to be feasible and work for your customers. So from those of you who have used a design thinking approach, talk to us a little bit about what that process was like and how it added value back for your users.
I mean, for us, as I said before, it's identifying the problem, right? And so Shalin had a problem. He was not looking fresh with the plastic bag. That was not his thing. However, that doesn't mean that it's a problem worth solving, right? And so we had to really dig in to say, is it that people do not have a solution, or is it that people are okay with the solution that they've come up with? And that's a part of design thinking that no one really is okay with. So for example, how many people in here eat tangerines? How many people in here have purchased a tangerine peeler? Why? Because a part of it is your hands are going to get dirty because it's finger food, right? But you can search tangerine peelers. They're out there. It's not a problem worth solving. And so once you dig into the fact that it's a problem worth solving, then it's a matter of whether or not your customer is going to invest in it. And so when we made our tote, we made so many samples that it was like, okay, well, you hold this one and let me know how this feels. And you hold that one and let me know how this feels. And hearing from the customer, yeah, I don't like this size, or these handles feel too purse-like, or this color really doesn't speak to me. And when we launched one color, one interior color, one exterior color, because it was more of seeing if the product was viable. And if the people want it, then they'll talk to us about it. And so it's really going back to the customer and continuing to validate the assumptions that you're making about their needs, and then going and testing it and saying yes, no, or maybe if I tweak it a little bit. And so since the launch of the tote, it changed design 3 times. You probably don't notice it. If you have an original tote and you look at the one you have and they be like, man, look at that. And that's because we're hearing from the customers. One example is men didn't like the way that the Tupperware was going in the first compartment. They said it took a little too much work to wiggle it in. So we changed it from a trapezoid to a square. Very simple, but hearing from your customer and being user-centered focus and being able to react to that. And women just nicely adapted. They didn't even realize. So.
Yeah, for us, this was a huge process. I didn't know what to call it, but that's the process that we went through as well. First, figuring out if this was a problem worth solving, because I knew I had the problem, but then, seeing women run around with bags on their head, I'm like, hopefully they will want to invest more than a grocery store bag. But we also went through the process of actually doing a Kickstarter campaign, and the whole purpose of the Kickstarter campaign was to get user feedback. I actually had enough to create 250 of them. That's all that I could sell. That was going to be it. And my whole purpose was to not make money, but to get them to give me their best feedback. I mean, not even best feedback, their worst feedback, actually. I needed to know what they liked about it, what they didn't like. I need them to wear it. I need them to wash it. I need them to try and iron it. Whatever you thought you wanted to do with it, do it, and then tell us what your experience is. And so also another thing that we did, or that I kind of did even before going through that part, was going and looking at reviews of other products and seeing, are people even complaining about the solution that they have? Do they mind having just a plastic bonnet, or do they care if they can just wear a shower cap and put a beanie on top of it? So all those things kind of helped us to get to a place where we can say, no, this is a problem worth solving, like you said, and here's all the feedback from women of all demographics, and paying attention to that, like Black women, how do they feel about it? White women, how do they feel about it? If you have curly, coarse hair, if you get silk presses, or if you have dreads, whatever the case is, making sure that we're considering all of that, and then making sure that we're responding with iterations, which ended up being about 65 iterations before we went to market.
Wow. So I just have to say, now I don't need plastic bags to cover my hair or to carry my lunch. So what am I going to do with all the plastic bags under my sink? I just don't know. Marcel.
So I was going to say, I think every entrepreneur goes through that process. Me being a self-proclaimed designer, I wasn't born an artist, but taught myself. I would definitely say that the empathize process or portion of the design process is where I spent my most time. Obviously wanting to create something, that people loved and enjoyed. They say that some of the best designers are like the most empathetic. So my way of testing all of our products is doing pre-orders. If we don't hit a certain threshold, then we won't put the product out. So that's kind of our way of getting like customer feedback. We also did a Kickstarter campaign as well, but going back to the crowdfunding for every product, we thought would have probably blemished the brand a little bit.
So a couple of things I'm hearing is, one, make sure your problem for your customers is worth solving. That makes me think back to the workshop earlier, and knowing your customer's pain point is key, but are you providing a solution that they care about? I'm also hearing that it might take many iterations, and that there are creative ways to figure out if your customers are vibing with your product and find it useful. So taking it back to Marcel, you were recently in Black Enterprise. Congratulations. So they did a really great feature on Marcel, and they were basically just talking about his timing, his passion, and his deal with Macy's that enabled you to build a $1 million watch company. Can I hold a couple? Okay, so talk to us about, there's no mountains without valleys. What are some of the challenges that you had on your way to that success?
Yeah, I would definitely, there's a ton of problems, right? Being an entrepreneur, we're problem solving all the time. If I had to reach in the bag and grab one, I'd probably go for just having enough capital to sustain over a period of time. Like I said, I put that purple tie around my head and I walked out of there. I had a little bit of money saved up, but I didn't know exactly, the hurdles that I would face personally and in business. So, really making sure that, you're consistently in like fundraising mode and having an idea of, some of the I guess ebbs that you could face, in having a product-based business. So a lot of, especially me being like a non-tech company, I wasn't really confident that I'd be able to raise, I hear guys in tech talking about they raise like $1 million, $5 million, $8 million, even $30 million for their, for their product or service. And I was just like, who's going to give me $2 million to, to start a watch company? But I found that lowering the ask and just kind of like spreading it across more people and giving them the opportunity to get involved, like really helped. So that's actually what I wind up doing. Having, I don't call them angel investors, but just like friends, family, and people that I knew loosely, like from social media.
I think that's a really good point, thinking about your friends and family not as necessarily your mom, aunt, and cousin, but your extended network that you can rely on. And I love the idea of lowering the ask to make it more attainable for folks to help you. So, Sharika, people know about the tote, but they may not know how much design work it took. And you have this background as a market researcher and product manager. So talk to us about the role technology plays in helping you better understand your product.
So research is very interesting. Like a lot of times you hear research development companies come up with the data and then they sell it. And so what we have to do is to come up with the data, understand the data, and then make something against that data. And when you're looking at the data comes in two forms. It comes in that qualitative and it comes in the quantitative. And in many cases, the quantitative can be skewed any way you kind of want it to be. Because you can have those vanity metrics, you can have those, and does everybody know what vanity metrics are? No. Okay, so vanity metrics are the metrics that make you say, so what? Right? So for example, if you have 1,000 page views today, so what? What does that say about your site? It says absolutely nothing. Or if someone stays on your site for 5 seconds or 25 seconds, so what? I got bored. I had to use the restroom. Commercial came on. The phone rang. It doesn't mean that I like anything. There's nothing I can do with it, right? And so a difficult part of being R&D is understanding what does this really mean. And so how do we use data? A lot of times I use myself as an experiment. And this is an interesting story. The guinep, it's called guinep. It's a Jamaican fruit. All of our products are named after our West Indian culture. And the guinep came, I ordered a light brown. I was very proud of that. I convinced my business partner we should get this one. And when it came, it wasn't light brown. I was like, but the people want brown, and it came burnt orange. And no matter what light I put it in, it was burnt orange. And so I played a joke on myself, and I said, I'm going to post this and say, this is what happens when you're an entrepreneur. And everybody was like, yo, that's fire. And I was like, wait, what? They're like, we need this. We need this. And I was like, you don't need this. Do you see what this looks like? And I was like, man, to Marcel's point, he's like, I'm going to pre-order this. I'm going to put it out there and see how many people order it. And people just started ordering and ordering. We had to call the manufacturer a second time to get more in. And so putting myself out there and being vulnerable, because I couldn't get enough quantitative or qualitative, we're still new. There's nothing for people to really deal with. I had to put myself out there and be like, look at my mistake and see what's going to come of this. And my friends will be the first one to tell me, like, sis, that ain't it. But everybody else is like, yeah, let's do this. And that afforded for conversation about what part of this should we do. Is it the inside? Is it the outside? And that's how some of the analytics started to help us. Because when you're a small business, when you get 100 views a day, you can't tell you anything. You know, when you have 200, 300 followers, it doesn't tell you anything. You really have to, as an owner, put yourself out there and be vulnerable and turn yourself into a tool and allow for people to communicate with you and for you to take that feedback and turn it into some sort of research.
Yeah, to that point, you know, we go off a lot on our gut instincts as entrepreneurs, and sometimes we think we've just nailed it, but we can be completely wrong. And it is important to, one, get that customer feedback, but also look at what other analytics tools we can use to drive that. I like that point about not getting so caught up in the vanity metrics, because even if it's not low numbers, even if it's 100,000 people visiting your page, if they're not buying, is that meaningful to you? If they're not subscribing or doing that action you need them to take, it may not be meaningful. So today is also meant to celebrate Black entrepreneurship as a growing segment in the U.S. economy. I'm so excited about that. And according to the 2015 census, there were 2.6 million Black firms nationally, a 34.5% increase from the last census. So we are growing. Recent data also shows it is women who are driving the growth. So shout out to Black women. Woo, woo, woo. Okay. And so what would you say then is your number one resource or tip to the small business owners in this room or those watching on the live stream that they should know about?
Well, I'll go. I think, and I'm really big on, you know, the law of attraction, managing your time, and there's so much that needs to be done when you're growing a business. There's so many things that you feel like you have to do. There's so many gold coins to chase. And I read this book called The One Thing. If you haven't read it as an entrepreneur, I highly recommend it. But it talks about really nailing, like, what is that one thing that you need to be doing every single day, and I mean every single day, that's going to move your business forward. And for me, you know, I spent a year and a half going through all the manufacturing issues and a whole bunch of issues with the fabric. I mean, we had tons of issues that we had to work through. But eventually I said, you know, what would make all of this easier and what is going to make this work is if we have tremendous sales. I can get funding if I do that. I can attract new hires to help me with stuff if I make the sales. And my goal was I want to make $100,000 a month. I got to get to that point. And I realized it's marketing that's going to help me do that. And I had to literally lock myself in a room. In the beginning, it was 8 hours a day. Then it went to 4 hours a day. But I learned digital marketing strategy to get to that point where I actually reached that goal in November of last year. And so now I feel like, you know, that was the key thing. I could have done a lot of other things during that time between May and November, but learning marketing was huge for me. You got to figure out what is that for your business? What is that one thing that you can do and devote yourself to every single day? And who do you need to learn it from? Who do you need? Do you need to get a coach? Do you need to go to a course? Do you need to go back to school? Whatever that is, figure that out and make sure you make time for it every single day.
Yeah, I definitely second all of those. I would also add, considering the worst case scenario when you're going into full-time entrepreneurship to kind of manage your expectations. It can be a very stressful thing when you think that you're going to achieve a certain amount and it doesn't work out like that. I think that you have to kind of fail forward, so you have to make some mistakes. I mean, when I quit my job, I have to keep going back to that. But when I quit my job, I thought that I was going to hit the million immediately. It did not work out like that. There were a lot of mistakes that I didn't even know I was making. But from going to events like this and meeting people and talking to people who've successfully done what I wanted to do, I was able to kind of course correct.
So I'm fighting between two. So I'll just share both. Understanding the difference between my user, my end user, and my customer. So do we know the difference?
Yes. But let's explain it.
Okay. So your customer is the person with the buying power. And your end user is the person who's actually going to use it. Think of it parent and child, right? If the end user nags the parent enough, in most cases, the parent's going to purchase. And so when you have a small business, understanding who's gonna buy it and who's gonna use it, and then catering my marketing around a little bit of both, right? So in the beginning, we realized that we wanted to target males because Shallon had the issue, but then we realized that the buying power lied with the women. And so it was like, wait a minute, I now need to jump into images. And when the woman saw the same bag on my arm, all of a sudden, I'm not buying one, I'm buying two. I'm gonna get one for me, one for my shorty, right? And it's like, ooh, yes, got him, right? Now, please still buy. But understanding what was going on and now being able to teeter between both and realize, okay, people need to know that they're there and relate to it was important. And the second thing is, what am I willing to pay for and what am I willing to do? And so our business, we have no investment, bootstrap. I sat down with Shallon and said, how much of your money are you willing to put towards this? And we built our contract off of we will spend this much each year around this. And when we hit it, we'll have a conversation of whether or not we want to put more or not. And I remember we wanted to write our patent. And Shallon said, so you going to write this patent? I said, technically, I should be able to write this patent because of engineering school. But when you look at patent lawyers, that's 5 figures. So you know what we did? We sat down and we wrote that patent. And we wrote it pretty nicely, and I sent it to my patent lawyer friend who sent it back within a couple of days with 6 patents that I was infringing on. I appreciate you. But through that process, we spent about $500-600 versus the 5 figure that it would have taken for somebody else to write. And I learned so much about Google patents and what to find, what to look for. I was like, how did you find these? I've been looking. He's like, you don't know what you're doing, right? And so what are you willing to pay for versus what's worth you doing yourself and learning, and how does that help you move forward?
I agree with all of these, and I would say the one that I would add after the last couple years is we sometimes will be very stingy with our ideas. We hold them tight to our chest, and I talk to business owners sometimes, and it's almost like they're these little dirty secrets, and I'm like, it's your business. Why aren't you sharing it with more people? You never know who's a potential collaborator or partner. So the one thing that I've taken away that I will offer to any other business owner is be willing to share, be willing to connect, and also be really willing to collaborate. Now, have discernment, but be willing to put yourself out there and see if there are opportunities to grow your business. So now I want to ask each of you, we have 3 product-based businesses up here. I'm the only service-based business up here. Talk to me a little bit about your key tools for getting new customers to know about your business.
So for me, we have used a variety of different tools. We use Facebook ads, and one of the things I had to figure out, that optimum selling strategy, like what is the copy, what is the visual, what is the platform that's going to be most effective to reaching my customers and to getting them to convert. And I thought, even the education piece was a big one that I didn't realize was going to be a problem. I'm like, your hair is going to get wet if you don't have this on. Like, what else do I need to explain? But people really needed us to pour water on her head, take it off, show, that was what mattered. So we finally made that video, and we put all kinds of tutorials on YouTube. Make sure people kept asking, how do you fold it? Okay, let's put a video up about that. All right, well, what's the how did you make it? What's the material? So we put everything on there, and then I leveraged Upwork to get someone to help me with SEO, because if you create something that hasn't been created before, just like she was talking about, you've got to make sure that people can find it, and then you got to figure out people are not looking for rain hats online, especially 3 years ago, because that's something that you don't think about until you're about to walk out of a store and you just grab whatever is there or the plastic bag. So we had to figure out, a woman that's looking for a silk press or a stylist, she probably wants a hair umbrella or would want one. Let's make sure that we have the search terms linked to that. Or there's a jazz festival coming up in Atlanta and it's gonna rain. Great, let me make sure I set up a AdWords campaign for everybody that's looking for the weather, everybody that's looking at Jazz Fest or coming into town for that. And so really understanding AdWords and also Google Analytics really helped me understand, 1, who my customer is, and 2, what they were searching for around what their interests are or the things that they were doing and the behaviors that would lead them eventually to become a Hairbrella customer so that we could place ourselves in front of those customers. Google AdWords for retargeting is something that I'm really learning a lot about now, but it's been extremely effective. You know, all those times that people have said like, oh my God, how did they know I would need this right now? I was like, AdWords, the algorithm is lit. So really understanding how to leverage those tools now is taking it one step further, you know, even beyond Facebook advertising. And I wanted one more tool that's been extremely helpful and underutilized is talking to your customers. Yes. In the beginning, I emailed every single customer through my Gmail business account. And then I created all types of charts and profiles and, you know, saved them in the drive, shared them with my virtual assistant, which is another great person to have on your team. But really studying my customers and talking to them and having conversations with them was huge for me because I didn't know why they bought until someone told me, well, my son has a soccer game, and the only reason I wasn't going to go was because it was going to rain. He started crying. So I'm like, oh, wait, moms, soccer moms. Like, that's another search tool that I could be leveraging. Or I'm going to play golf. Or I wasn't thinking about these things. So really leveraging the kind of communication tools to understand your customer, then translating that over to the tools that you have available online that kind of automate a lot of those things and put you in front of the right customers. And one more thing relative to websites, Hotjar, I'm not sure if people have heard of that. This is a platform that will basically screen record your customers while they're on your site. Not them, the person, but like their clicks. And they really, that platform was huge because I didn't know why people were abandoning cart. I didn't understand why people were like literally adding payment and then not ordering. But you will see like they scroll down and they saw maybe the shipping cost or they didn't see enough reviews. They were like clicking through reviews. Oh, they saw a bad one. Then they clicked off as soon as they saw that bad one. What was the bad one about? Oh, you know, why is this, you know, why didn't it come in another color? Whatever the case was. So I learned so much about why people were buying, why they weren't buying by leveraging Hotjar. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that one as well.
There were so many good gems in there, and if you're tweeting, hashtag grow with Google, hashtag BHM. But one of the things that you called out that I think is particularly important, we talked about this in the workshop earlier, is making sure you have a content strategy when you have a new product because your customers need to understand how it works. And even if it's really intuitive to you or you think, oh, everyone has used lipstick before, explaining the features or what makes yours different can be something that helps stand out to your audience. Marcel?
Yeah, I definitely have to second what she said about the in-person communication. I think that's something that has definitely gotten lost, like with so much technology. But it's the best marketing that you'll do. It's the best analytics that you'll get. Is that that in-person communication? Like the internet is just a simulation of real life. So like if I'm out talking to a customer and I see how they react to certain things, that I know how to better communicate with them. But as far as the platforms that I use, I would definitely say like we do pop-up shops. That's turned out to have like the highest conversions. It turns out that just giving people wine makes them buy watches. So so we use that quite often, usually around the holidays. Facebook ads have been probably the biggest I guess like lead generator. And Google Analytics kind of helping us like to understand the copy when we're addressing each of these like ad sets.
So Facebook ads don't work for us. Weirdly enough, it seems like people come to Facebook to talk to us versus to purchase from us. And that was something we really had to learn which platforms were doing what for us. So we're more Instagram ads. And my business partner spends a lot of time in search and analytics, and shout out to you for that, because I don't do that. I'm more concerned with building a business, right? So a lot of times, I don't know if you ever watched Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban's like, you're still a product. You're not a business. And what does that mean? So like my Google My Business profile, once I started paying attention to that, I saw people were clicking more on our pictures and coming more to our site. Why? Because now we look legit. How many times you see people say, I ordered something online and I ordered it like this and it came like this? I'm falling into that category until I start to invest in building this business. And so we started putting images, we started adding our times and where we are, and then I started using Google Voice because everybody wanted to talk to somebody. Right? And so I was like, all right, bet we're going to get a phone number because my number, that's not going to work. And we also got a customer service email. It's like, I called it Let's Chat. You know, I didn't say customer service. I made it more of let's talk. Let's have dialogue. And when we realized that interacting with people, responding to emails within 4 to 8 hours, making sure someone's answering Google Voice, making sure that we're adding these new images to our profile. We had so many organic clicks because people are like, oh, they're legit. They care about these customers. And in the back end, he's manipulating you guys with all of these other things, and it's amazing, right? But as minorities, in many cases, people question our legitimacy. And so we have to make sure that we're investing in those tools that help us be a better business. And a lot of my time is literally watching our mailbox and watching our voice and really seeing what time of day, or asking him, what time of day are people really clicking? What time of day are people really interacting, so that I make sure I'm on social media and I'm responding to comments during that time, because you don't want people to get bored or say no one's paying you any mind. And just really growing the business and setting that platform for who we want to be.
And for the service-based businesses, because I know there's a fair amount in the room and on the live stream, one of the things that I think helps with engaging customers is demonstrating thought leadership in places where your customers are, so that they see you as the expert in your space. If you're seen as the expert in your space, then they're more likely to want to engage in your services. So for instance, having a coaching business, when I was just getting started, it was important for me to get quoted in Monster and in Recruiter as much as possible, so that people would say, when I think about a career coaching business, who is going to be top of mind? We're going to go to that one that we saw, who's been a part of the conversation, leading the way here. So I would think about, where can you demonstrate your thought leadership as much as possible? So we have just a couple more questions before we're going to take some questions from those of you in the room and those of you on the live stream. So if you want your questions answered, make sure you at Google Small Biz with your questions. But as a follow-up to that, something else we talked about is most businesses can't sustain themselves with just one purchase. So now that you've gotten the customers, especially with high price items, how do you re-engage them to come back and do repeat business with you?
Email marketing, for sure. And, social media is something that, keeps you engaged with current customers. And then finding out why they might want another one. I think one of the challenges that small businesses have is you want to focus on one core product. It's not always wise to start deviating and creating more products for your customers. How do you get them to buy that one again? Or how do you get them to share it with someone else? And the most effective way for us has been email marketing, and really thinking about our customer, again, talking to them and understanding, if they did buy 2 or 3, why? Were you getting it for your sister for her birthday? Did you want one for your car and in your office? What are these occasions? Fathers, don't you care about your daughter's hair? You need to get her a hair umbrella. Or there's a new color coming out. Those were things we could do without necessarily expanding the product line. So email marketing has been huge. Social media, YouTube as well. You want to keep educating your customer, and then that keeps you top of mind. And so when they start to see that you have more content, or they start to see the blog, or that you were featured in something, they want to continue that conversation, that relationship with you. So the more that you can make them aware through email, through YouTube, through social media, then you're more likely to get those customers to become repeat buyers.
Yeah, I would say just just always remaining top of mind. So literally everything she just said as far as emailing. When you initially generate the lead, you want to make sure you're collecting as much information about the customer as possible. There's nothing that surprises a customer more than sending them some sort of discount on their birthday or something like that. Another strategy I use is I just pick up the phone and call them. If they gave me their number, they gave it to me for a reason. So I pick up the phone and I give them a call. And this is as far as retention, this is probably the best strategy, because there are not too many companies doing it. There does become a point where it's a nuisance. It's too many customers to do that with. But if you can like pinpoint customers that are engaging with your content, I would definitely choose those to give a call to.
So one of the things that we've been thinking about, so this is not live yet, but since we're being vulnerable, Angelina talked about earlier the car. It's an upsell, and they want you to return the car. And we're really big about giving back. And so some of the things we're thinking about as you buy more and more lunch totes, I'm going to come out with a brand new color, right, with a strap and everything. You'd be like, dang, I already got a lunch tote, but I want this one. And so a strategy for us to get back your lightly used lunch tote, provide you with a discount to your next lunch tote, and then donate that slightly used one to kids in Baltimore, kids that we are sponsoring in STEM programs, or bringing them to Jamaica and giving it to them. And so people are interested not just in the purchase, but the fact that we're giving back to the community and it's being cycled. You see all that, see this, you get all these bags back. Yes, right? And so those are the type of things that we think about because we're really big about it. And we know that people are buying into the brand. Everybody can have a watch. Everybody can make a umbrella, a hair umbrella. Everybody can carry a bag, right? But it's us that they're buying into and what we stand for and whether or not we're here for more reasons than just making money. You know, what are you really doing? And so I would say as you're trying to get your customers, speak to their hearts honestly, you know, and be that person and allow for your business to reflect that.
And then for service-based businesses on re-engaging customers, I would also consider one thing that's worked really well for me is collecting feedback and doing some sort of evaluation after a client experience. And then when you're doing that follow-up, to be able to say, and you said that you really got this from this experience. I want to see if we can re-engage. Let's revisit. So reminding them of the great experience that they had with you because they may forget about your service, staying top of mind and reminding them of that experience. So it is almost time for live questions, but before that, just in a sentence, because there's so many entrepreneurs in the room, and we saw many of you are working 9 to 5s as well as your 5 to 9. Just what's the best piece of advice each of you have for entrepreneurs as they're managing their lives, their personal, their professional, to find some sort of opportunity to have some self-care in their routine? One sentence.
You go first. I had to think about that one.
Watch Netflix.
Netflix and chill.
Sometimes you just have to unplug.
Yes.
Get away from the minutia of your day, and just watch a good show on Netflix. It's sometimes I'm not even gonna lie. Sometimes when I'm watching a show, I'll get an idea or some sort of inspiration, and then I can go off and be a lot more productive. So that'd be my advice.
So unplugging is key to creativity.
Yeah, definitely unplug.
Yep.
For me, I have a tribe of people I vent to. So I'm going to call you up. I'll call my brother. I'll call my mom. I'll call my uncle. So all I want to do is vent. You ready? You have time? Oh, you don't have time? Okay, next person, right? And I get it all out. I don't want an opinion. I don't want anything else. I might let you to borrow a good looking. All right. And we're done, right? And so for me, it's just kind of empty it. I feel better. I send them a thank you or something, and we're on to something else. So I would say have a tribe of people that you could dump. That sounds so bad.
Make time for meditation and think about your why when you do that.
And of course, I'm going to bring it back to Google Tools. I would say try to find ways to make your life more efficient. So if there's something, a process you can put into play, I, for instance, really like G Suite, shared collaboration. I can know that I can work on something. Someone can be in another location. We can work on it together. Just finding those ways to create more efficiency in your life helps with making sure that you're managing your time better, and I find that very valuable. So we have now time for questions. First, I just want to give a hand clap to our panel for being amazing. And it is really inspiring to be in this beautiful room of Black business owners at the eve of the end of Black History Month. Before we take questions from the room, we do have one question that came from Twitter, and it's I am Faven. And I am Faven asks, how do you feel about using hashtags on social media? Are hashtags dead? Oh, I'm hearing no in the room. What do the panelists think?
They're definitely not dead, especially if you have a product like, Hair Umbrella doesn't really tell you exactly what it is. So putting the hashtags in there, especially ones that are active, people actually follow them or look for them. Or you'd be surprised, people are searching and shopping with hashtags. People are trying to find Atlanta hairstylists and all those things. So having quality content connected to those hashtags. Now, don't just be doing a bunch of hashtags just to do it, but those that are going to help the people that would be looking for your product or service, using those consistently. I understand they also help with SEO, so that is something to think about too. I wanted to become #1 for women's rain hats, so we started. People probably like, wow, that's such a lame hashtag, but no, it wasn't lame because it makes us a lot of money once we can get higher in the search terms. So using them strategically with content that is going to be relevant specifically, they won't be the coolest ones all the time, that will be relevant to the people that could be looking for your product or service.
So the key thing to keep in mind is how am I going to get found by more customers? And if hashtags help, then you keep the hashtags. Thank you, I am Faven. Any questions in the room? We have one from this gentleman right here. The mic is coming to you.
Thank you all for your opinions. My name is Jamal Smith, and I'm working on a travel app to better facilitate friends and family traveling in groups together. We haven't launched this yet, and the struggle is, when do we start getting the market excited? So this is before you created your first watch or the first bag. When do you know it's time to get people excited? And then what are you telling them? What's the call to action?
I always say immediately. You want to the moment you've gotten the idea, you want to start to create a plan as to when you want to roll it out, and then from there you want to start teasing people with it to get them interested. You can't just drop a product. You can't just one day say, "Hey, I got a travel app or a travel business," and expect to generate some sort of revenue. People have to know that it's coming. So I definitely say, like, have a goal for when you want to launch, and then have a pre-launch plan leading up to that actual launch date. And that the tease could be like logo. You could say a few things about the solution. The problem that you're solving, like in a question format. Like ask people if this is something that they would need, and then start putting out content surrounding that. And I think from there you'd be good.
In my experience, people start to lose interest somewhere around 15 to 30 days out, especially if you're posting a couple times a week. So I would say if you're about 30 days out, you can, launch your page or start to get hype, ask questions to get some information back. But you want to be in a place that it's coming, and you might just be working on the little details versus I'm still 3-4 months out and people are like, so what are we talking about, right? And so I would say put that cap based on your market as to how long are they willing to entertain you wetting their palate. And then you go to market from there. And another way to go to market might be not just online, but you may want to have a product launch party, or you may want to do it around your birthday, or you may want to do it around Christmas, where you can use your personal brand to your advantage, and you'd be like, yeah, y'all owe me something, it's my birthday, come through, but also it's the launch of my app, and you kind of capitalize on that. But I would say somewhere around 15 to 30 days is usually where people are like, okay, what's going on?
And if you have, I don't know if you plan to do a soft launch, but I always feel like you can have so much more confidence if you've taken some time with a group of people that would be your target demo, get their feedback, because if they're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, and they want to share it, you're ready. You can drop it when you want, right? And then if you get feedback that's, they didn't respond the way you wanted to, you're going to feel a little bit more, nervous about that actual launch. So I would suggest maybe doing a beta or doing a test with a small group, and then, getting their feedback about what made them excited so that you can implement that when you actually go live.
The last thing I would just add to that is think about what are the other pieces in your category of content that you could offer just to develop some sort of affinity for the brand. There are a lot of great brands that before they actually dropped products or services that you could buy, you became familiar with their brand. So think Travel Noir, or some of, if Humans of New York were to launch something tomorrow, people might be really engaged with buying it because they have developed such a strong brand. So maybe you offer content to your audience to get that brand going before you actually launch is something worth considering. We have other questions in the front.
Reviews. So it can be a hit or miss for a lot of companies. And being a service-based company that I own, I've not had a bad review yet, but I'm very nervous about how that can impact my company. Being that y'all have had your company for some time, have you had any bad reviews, and how did you go about mitigating the negative potential impact that review had?
Yeah, we live in the day where, reviews write your check. Seriously, we use them when we are searching for things before we engage, and it's just really important. So getting reviews was huge for us, and especially to validate a product that people had never heard about. We have gotten bad reviews, and my philosophy has always been to go out of your way to make it up to the customer for whatever it is that went wrong. And if it's about the product itself, we offer 30-day money back. We'll even pay for you to send it back to us. So there's not the angry customer that they fooled me and I gotta pay to send this. It's like, no. If you don't like it, no risk. We don't ask any questions. Send it back to us. And so that also mitigates. So finding out what customers would get so upset about that they would actually write a bad review, and trying to address that beforehand. And then if you do actually get one, just going out of your way to actually talk to them. I've emailed and gone back and forth. I almost sent this lady flowers one time. And it wasn't even our fault. It was something with delivery, but it didn't matter because it's a reflection on us. So I believe in, especially early, go out of your way. Even if you're going to lose money off of doing something for a customer, do all you can to make them happy. They will pay you back with great reviews, and you'll have a wonderful reputation that will bring you more customers.
Something else I'd add on to that is try to get the conversation from online to offline if you can. So once you've gotten that initial negative review, if it was something that was personal or triggered you, step back, wait a while, and put your customer service friendly hat on, because ultimately if it's online, it's there, it lives there. So I would respond and say, very disappointed to hear about your experience, something to that effect. Can you give us a call so we can make it right? So that way anyone else viewing online can see that you are a responsive business owner and that you will do something about the review, but that you're not going back and forth and it's not becoming an online war. You don't want that. We have time for another question. We have one right here.
I was just curious if any of you, while you seek to raise capital, sold an ownership stake or considered that, and if so, how was that experience for you?
Well, I have not sold ownership stake yet. I have considered it though. Being that I'm like the sole owner, I look at it as like bringing on like a partner. If I would have a partner, I would own 50% of the company. So sometimes people may look at like giving up 10 or 20% of a company as a lot, but I think you just have to like look at your unique situation, determine like how much you could give up, and really spend time getting an accurate valuation on your company. I'm not sure exactly where you are.
So I'm starting to buy a water company, but we're at that stage trying to figure out what the addressable market looks like, so we can have that valuation figure to go with.
Right.
And then if so, what size of the stake we can sell.
Yeah. Have you spent time like talking to any investors or venture capitalists? Because there are a lot that are actually open to what's called like dividend investing, where they get a portion of your revenue as opposed to equity. So that's definitely a route that I would recommend taking as well.
I also look at not just the money, but what are you getting from this giveaway? Like a lot of people are like, I just need capital, but most of us are just going to waste it. You will just make really expensive mistakes, right? And so it's a matter of, when we're looking at, we've never done it, but we're in the middle of it right now. It was, so what do you bring to the table? And it's an interview process to them as well. Like, so how much time can you give me? What are you willing to do? Can I call you? Do I have to go through your, assistant? All those things. And then this is not good, but in college, remember you put all the tip on the table, and as they just mess up, you just take a little bit more tip off, right? And I remember they did, I'm not saying you should, but that's what I've seen happen. As you say, I'm willing to give 25%, but if this person only has capital and doesn't have time for you, then it's not 25%, then it's 20%. And if they're like, oh, the capital comes with XYZ, no, but then it's 17%, because at the end of the day, you're a small business that doesn't know anything but to crawl. And eventually you need to try to walk and wobble, and these big guys will take advantage of you because they know that you need money. And so I would say weigh them, interview them, and then start from there.
Yes, I did. So I invested about $65,000 of my own money before I left my job, and saved for a year of income, and probably should have saved for 3. And at the point that Hairbrella was really going through the process of figuring out like manufacturing and reverse engineering this fabric, and it was tons of stuff that we needed to sort out before we could be viable and actually like really go to market. And so I did decide to contact some angel investors. It started with a family friend who happened to be Nathaniel Bronner of the Bronner Brothers. I almost got on my knees in prayer in his office, like, please give me a chance. And he did. And another key thing, get an investor that, like you said, is also, knowledgeable, but also if they can be like a name that you can leverage in all the other meetings. So that was huge for me to have him on board. Then later, Jewel Burks invested. And everyone on my cap table has some expertise that I don't have. One taught me digital marketing. Bronner, of course, knows everything about the hair industry. I have another one that was a former controller and accountant. None of these investments were huge investments either. We did, between as low as $5,000 at one point, all the way up to 25 to maybe 50 after a couple of rounds of that. And I didn't give away a ton of my business, but I did give away something that would make it worth their time and their money to invest. So I think it's a personal thing. I think having conversations would be helpful with the people that you're talking to. But if it's the first round and you can make it with family, friends, angels, that I think is the best way to go because you're going to grow with them. I think the relationship gets a little different when you start dealing with venture capital. And I've been able to avoid that, which is great. But yeah, so that experience for me was helpful because I was able to get the things I probably couldn't buy at the time. And that's been more valuable than the percentage of equity that I had to give in exchange. And I'm happy that they have it. I'm glad they're invested in me as well.
And we have time for just one last question over here.
For product-based businesses, one thing that I've noticed inside of the market, and you like in some Facebook groups and things like that, a big thing is manufacturing, and all of you guys are manufacturing businesses. You hear often that you see a lot of people are going to China and things like that to get their things made, and everybody wants to hold their secret or who their manufacturer is, or pay me, $10,000 and I'll tell you who that person is, or whatever. No, seriously, these are the things that are happening. But for Black businesses, it's hard to find some of those places and to know where to go to find manufacturers or people that will help you with your product. So what would be the best advice that you guys would offer for product-based businesses that have a good, that they really want out in the market but just really don't know where to get it from, or be taken advantage of, here?
We can take one of you.
Yeah, I definitely say so. Our first manufacturer was in Hong Kong. We recently switched to Switzerland to manufacture because they're like like Mecca timepieces. When I first started looking for manufacturers, I had a very difficult time. Like you said, I thought that one Google search was going to lead me there. But it took kind of hanging out on some of the blogs within my industry and getting involved in some of those conversations to really get to that manufacturer. But I think the most important thing that sometimes gets glazed over is vetting that manufacturer, because you can easily find a I'm not sure what's your product. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So Alibaba is a quick way. If you did want to go the China route, is a quick way to just see who's manufacturing what product. But you want to make sure that you vet the manufacturer. Alibaba does a decent job of doing it, but you still want to go the extra mile. I actually lost about $30,000 from not vetting my initial manufacturer. I collected pre-orders and I paid the manufacturer for our inventory, and they literally just like stopped answering the email, stopped answering the phone. Wow. But what the issue was that they were only accepting like wire transfers, so there was no other way of like paying the manufacturer. So that's something that you want to look for as well. There's a ton of legitimate manufacturers in China, but there are also some that are pretty shady as well. So definitely how they accept payment is probably one of the biggest things to look for.
Can I just add one point? One thing in vetting them, you can hire a QA company. We hired a QA company to go out there and look at the company, see what the working situation was. Is it a clean manufacturing, all that stuff, and send it back to us. And then we also ordered product from them of what they made to see the quality. So you spend your money and buy their stuff and see if it's good. You pay to see if they're ethical, and then from there you can kind of go forward.
So thank you all. We do have to close. I know many of you may have follow-up questions for our panelists. So the best thing to do is find them on social. Sharika Winter with TW Lunch Tote, Marcel Benson with Benson Watch Company, and Tracy Pickett with Hairbrella. DM them your questions, tweet them your questions, and continue the conversation there using hashtag BHM. I want to thank all of you for joining both in the room. We've had an exceptional day. And for those of you who have joined on the live stream, we talked about things like what is that one thing you do differently every day that's going to make a difference for your business? How do you make the right decisions on not just your gut instinct, but what your customer wants from you, from your product? And then also just making sure that you're going through the proper processes for vetting and finding the right partners when you are thinking about distribution. So lots of great nuggets here. I hope that you will continue to engage with the Google Digital Coaches program. You can check out the other resources we have at grow.google/digital coaches, where there's future workshops and events, and we encourage you to stay engaged. Thank you so much. Happy Black History Month. Okay, so for those of you here, we now have a reception. So please don't go home. We want to continue to mingle and celebrate what a success today was. And before you leave, we actually are going to turn it over to our program manager for some exciting closing remarks. So don't go anywhere.
Let's give another round of applause to the amazing panel. All right, so I know, I'm the only one that's keeping you between your seats and cocktails and nice reception snacks. So before we close off, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for really sticking with us throughout the entire day. As Angelina mentioned,